Hello and welcome to my channel. At long last, the introduction of Baun Performance's exhaust line for the GTI. Stick around. Welcome back and thanks for being here. My name is Scott and wow, this video has been a long time coming. This video is not for the faint of heart. I go into lots of details. Jake talks about the exhaust systems. I talk about the ones where we didn't realize we were going to put everything in here that we did. And so I will talk about some of it. Jake will talk about some of it. We'll go for drives. I will share in-car footage, a little bit of out-of-the-car footage. And yeah, here we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go on down the list of what I've done. Again, this is about an hour, so I hope you're ready for this. If you're here still, it's because you really want to know about these exhaust systems. So stock, everybody knows how the stock system sounds. I could not get recordings of a stock GTI. Turns out that's tougher to get. I found a few guys, but you know, it just didn't work out for one reason or another to get in the car with them and go for a drive and make some sound measurements, especially at the variety of speeds that I wanted to try. So I jumped in my wife's Jetta here. This is a 2018 Jetta with 1.4 turbo. The turbo is about the size of a walnut, and so the exducer opening is maybe this big. It does not put out a lot of exhaust tone, but I decided I wanted to just use it as a baseline for a quiet car. I'm pretty sure that the stock GTI is a little louder than this car, but probably not very much. I don't know, I'm sure within 5 dB. And so I'll just go right on down the list of what I am sharing. First, I will share the stock Jetta here, and then I will move on through the progression of the exhaust systems that I have had. So right now I am cruising at 45 miles per hour, and I think that's my lowest decibel reading on this chart that I will share with you here in a minute. And at 45 miles per hour, the decibel reading is 65 decibels. That's the quietest one out of all the ones I've tested so far. So 65 at 45. And here in just a minute, I will do an acceleration to 55. All right, I'm still cruising at 45 miles per hour, and now I'm going to do a gentle acceleration to 55, and let's see how that looks. It was still like 67 dB, and then it got a little louder because I'm on a rougher road now. But otherwise, still very quiet. All right, a 55 mile per hour cruise. I hear more wind noise and tire noise than anything else, but at 55 miles an hour, the reading is 65 dB. It even dipped down to 63 for a moment, so still very, very quiet. All right, so now we're going to try a little bit of wide open throttle acceleration. So let's see how this goes. Try not to laugh. 70 dB. That got me up to 75 miles an hour. Took a lot longer in this car. We'll try one more little rip here in a second. All right, another freeway entrance ramp. I'm at 3,000 RPM. I'm just going to let it go. Went up to 5,000. It peaked at 71 and then back down to 70. So that's pretty consistent out of this quiet exhaust. All right, so my next clip will be 70 mile per hour cruise. That's 70 dB. Most of what I'm hearing in here is tire noise, road noise. $80 is also 70 dB. So I just don't know if this car is capable of being any louder than 70 dB. That's kind of funny. So after stock, I went ahead and I got an APR downpipe. And that downpipe introduced some drone that I just not care for. I will share a video that I created about it up here. I will also share a clip of what that exhaust sounded like. It was a little louder, a little throatier, but the thing that I really couldn't tolerate was the peaky drone between 2800 and 3500 RPM. Take a listen to this. So 2500 RPM. There's 28. This is 3000 RPM. You know, people have ridden in the car, they've commented that, hey, that's not bad at all. It really doesn't sound that bad. And they're right, it doesn't sound that bad. But I'm picky. So if I can reduce or eliminate that drone, I will like it even better. If I can't, that's all right. It's not awful. And then later, at Jake Baun's suggestion, I think this was through PMs, and he has a thread over at golfmark7.com talking about the Vibrant. So we went with a 17950, which is a 3-inch resonator, not the, what's it called, the ultra quiet resonator. That one's not large enough to do the job up at the front of the car. I went with the 17950 resonator. It's a larger resonator, and Jake will show it to you here in a little bit. And that one did knock the drone down pretty good. So check out the difference on the same road, same day. This is 2500 RPM, 28, 3000, still sounds the same. There's 3500, now I'm going to let off. All right, so right now I'm going to share a clip. I wanted to get a recording, similar testing to what Jake and I did down in South Carolina. And so here I am teaming up with a friend to jump on the road. He has exactly that setup, an APR downpipe, the Vibrant 17950, and then from there back it's all stock. So take a listen to this. Here is my friend Chris. Okay, so today I'm in the car with Chris. He's got basically my twin. This is a 2017 also, isn't it?
Correct.
So this one is an Autobahn. We're going to take some measurements here today with this setup and try to mimic what I had done with Jake's setups, the various setups that we tested in South Carolina. So so here we go. We'll just do some testing, and I have my sound pressure level meter, and we'll see how everything compares.
Alright, so it's in 6th gear. I was just in 5th gear.
Alright, so this is you want to do 70?
You want me to get to 70?
Yeah, let's do the 70. That'll match my other stuff.
Okay.
It's like 72 dB. Does anybody? Oh, yeah, let's do 55 real quick, just to get it written down.
Right there.
So we'll call that 68. Let's go ahead and do 70. I think I can still call that 72, so that's fairly consistent.
Right here, we're gonna go up to 80.
All right.
That's 80.
All right. Well, do you dare do 85?
That's 85.
We'll call it 75. All right.
We'll get to 70.
And then when you go to third, hold it there for a second so that we can stabilize everything and then hit it. All right, whenever you're ready. All right, I'll call that 82.
What is dB right now? Doing 70 on
72. Which is consistent with what I've measured before. I didn't even think of that.
Get just a hair straighter, and then 1, 2, 3.
All right, I saw 82.
All right, so
That's the same as before. So after a little while, a weld on that exhaust failed. I took it to a shop that just You know, I didn't know they'd do shoddy workmanship. They consider themselves to be a custom shop, a speed shop, and I don't know, maybe they do good work for their high-paying customers or the people who they know, and they just do crap for just the guy walking in off the street. I don't know. I didn't bother taking it back. I went total overkill and completely replaced the exhaust with one of Jake's catback exhausts. I went with his less aggressive. I was really pleased with the look of it, and I have to admit that it was louder than I preferred. Now, I don't have any footage of Jake talking about that exhaust, I don't think. I'll look to see if I do. But in general, what I just described to you is that exhaust. Took it for some drive. Here is some test tones of that. So right now I'm running with Baun Performance's less aggressive catback exhaust, and that consists of the APR downpipe, which is not his, it's got a cat on it, and then the Vibrant resonator. I forget the model, it's like 17950-ish. I will put a specific note right up here, and that's followed by a Borla XS muffler, and then straight out the back through his very beautiful split pipe there. And I have to admit, it was a little more exhaust tone than I was hoping for, but I felt a little bit of pep and therefore tolerated it. My wife hates it, so that makes it awesome, right? All right, so let me give you a quick sample of the noise. 70 miles per hour with the standard less aggressive catback exhaust. 70 miles an hour. Here we go. It seems to be hovering around 76 decibels. Now let me do a quick full throttle before this traffic catches up with me. I think that was around 97 dB and not quite 97 miles per hour. This isn't exactly the bright sun in my face view I wanted to give you, but it is the direction I'm headed toward Jake's place. And I wanted to give you a sample of the sounds at normal driving speeds. So here I am cruising at 35 miles per hour, fourth gear, just under 2,000 RPM. Can't do it so well with one hand, but I'm going to try to hold this meter up in front of you so you can see a rapid acceleration. So here we go. So I don't know what that said. So here I am right now driving at 55, 6th gear. It's got a little bit of a drone to it. Let's see what that says for sound pressure. So 73 dB. Now again, that was louder than I preferred, but I also felt more power. And sure, I understand the placebo effect, more noise, more sound equals more power, but I am a skeptic in a big way, very analytical. And the thing that really, I felt the power, and sure, that is subjective, but something that's a little more objective is the car was behaving differently too. It was, the tires were slipping in places where it didn't used to slip, places in the rev band, higher in the RPM. So that was telling me I was getting more top end power with that exhaust. The wheel slip indicator on the dash would flash more often than it ever had before. Usually I would get that slip indicator down at low RPMs, but now I'm getting it up and higher in the RPMs, and that was unusual. So I'm very well convinced that going with a 3-inch turbo back system of some sort, certainly Jake's less aggressive cat back, it gave me more power, I'm convinced. How much more, I don't know. Still, I wasn't fond of the extra sound, but because of the extra power, I tolerated it. It was my first foray into the Boy Racer soundtrack, and it wasn't awful. Again, a little louder than I preferred, and kind of terrible when I'm towing a trailer. But how many of you shopping for these exhaust systems are going to tow a trailer? So that's a me problem, not a you problem. And again, I don't really tow that often anyway, particularly in the hills, so I lived with it. Later, I upgraded to an IS-38 turbocharger, and the IS-38's exducer opening is larger than the IS-20 by about 7 or 8 millimeters. I want to say that's 15% larger. That lets more exhaust tone through, so my exhaust became a little more throaty and louder at acceleration, not by a lot, but just enough to make it to where I'm a little more annoyed by the sound of the less aggressive cat back. And then even later still, I decided to go permanent with my rear seat delete. It's amazing how much sound the rear seat holds back. And so without that rear seat holding sound back, it became even louder in the cabin. Not unbearably loud, just a little deeper into that unpreferred territory. And I wanted to find a solution that would knock that sound down. So I approached Jake about a solution, and he came up with something. I ordered it, and then went down to do some testing. And before I share any of our commentary, I will tell you this. In the process, he revealed another exhaust that somebody else had him work on, and that customer decided to leave his exhaust there just a little longer so that I can test his as well. So his will be included. So the reason I'm telling you this out of order is because we didn't test the systems in the order that I'm about to present them to you. The order I'm presenting them to you is stock, vibrant, less aggressive catback, stealth dual, stealth suitcase, and then just for a giggle, we made a run on Jake's car, the aggressive catback exhaust. But for logistics wise, to spend less time on the lift, I tested the stealth suitcase first, and then the stealth dual. So you're going to hear some language out of me and us that alludes to that. We thought that we were going to be clever and say things in a manner that would make it look like we did the stealth dual and then the stealth suitcase, but it just didn't work out that way. I was so impressed with that stealth suitcase that just things came out of my mouth that kind of gives away the order of things, or it could be confusing to those of you who don't get that we swap the order. So know that I drove the stealth suitcase, then the stealth dual. Oddly enough, my working name for that exhaust system, at first I didn't know he was going to name it Stealth in my honor, so I was referring to it as the Old Man Exhaust. Later, he named it the Stealth. So let me have Jake, in his own words, introduce the Stealth Dual to you, and then we'll go for a drive. All right, let's talk about this exhaust setup.
So, named after the man himself, StealthGTI. This is the Stealth turbo back option from Baun Performance. We had spoke about the idea originally back when we first did your less aggressive exhaust.
Actually, it wasn't. It was when I came back for Diana's front mount.
The second.
And I remember saying, when I first drove it, I think I told you, ooh, it's a little louder than I want, but I could feel something extra in the top end as far as pull goes. So I decided I'll tolerate it. But then when we came back with Diana, I remember walking over here and I said to you, I said, if you have a solution, and only if you, because there's no way I was going to take off your beautiful work, but if you have a solution to make it quieter, I'd love to see it. And then you were like, oh, well,
yeah,
I have this. So go ahead.
So this idea had been kind of kicking around, and with him being a fan of the aesthetics of the symmetrical dual mufflers, or in this case, they're actually technically, as you order them, a resonator, but for our purposes and where they're mounted, referring to them as mufflers because the basic build qualities are identical. So this system is essentially just an add-on to the less aggressive. It's covered with his street shield, but Vibrant 17950 resonator that I use in all of my systems and my OEM Fitman mid pipes, the Orla XS Pro muffler, and then the dual Vibrant ultra quiet resonators in the rear. So all of my parts being modular, if you've got any of my now 5 options, you can mix and match parts to refine the sound how you want. However, the axle back is never going to be available on its own. I know I post pictures of this part being built and people get excited thinking there will be an axle back option. It's just, it doesn't make sense. It's cost prohibitive because of developing the piece to go from this V-band to the factory exhaust would require me having a completely stock car to do that on, and somebody being willing to spend Chinese catback money on this much exhaust.
Sure.
So, there's a buyer and a purpose for every market. With this being, no expenses spared product, it also kind of makes sense to have the whole thing, not just the part that you can show off on Instagram. So he's got the whole deal. We're calling it a turbo back exhaust. He doesn't have my downpipe, but
Yeah.
for argument's sake, downpipe is a downpipe is a downpipe. Catted, they all sound within reason of each other.
Okay. Well, let me ask a question that might be putting you on the spot. You, in your words, are infamously known for not recommending these, but to clarify, you don't recommending using one of these up there to quiet a cat back, but in this application you do because you're, I'm going to call it stacking efforts, but put it in your language, why you don't recommend this up here but it is good back here.
You've basically nailed it on the head. For drone canceling in the Mark 7, it's been proven time and time again that the Vibrant 17950 resonator, and I can grab one off the shelf to kind of show that. I've got 6 of them sitting here. That is the ultimate drone canceling device for these cars, and it's important where it's placed in the system as well. So for those that have tried these ultra quiets up there where the factory resonator would be, it's just insufficient for this platform.
You want to grab one real quick so
Yeah.
they can see the difference?
Yeah, let me grab one. So the main reason for recommending that you don't use these on a Mark 7 is people tend to have a really short attention span. So the lengthy explanation of this one's for there, these ones are okay back here, people don't follow that. The answer is always this one for canceling drone, and it goes where the factory resonator was. Reason being is the longer case design and the larger diameter, there's a lot more volume absorbing fiberglass packing in this thing to do what it needs to do for the drone frequencies on this car. So there's tons of different tastes for volume. Some people can get away with basically just this, and some people prefer to have it as close to stock volume as possible while still having the aesthetics and the performance gains to show for it.
I'm looking forward to seeing how this sounds with a little bit more noise reduction. I don't know, anything else you want to say before we go for a drive?
If nothing else, it was a cool experiment and it looks really cool. So even if
Yes.
the sound difference is minimal, the aesthetics are definitely cool.
You know, I saw a similar setup on another car, and I sent you the picture, but I don't think I'm going to share the picture here because I don't know the owner of the car, and I don't want to get any disputes over photo credits for the guy, but there was somebody autocrossing a car. This is kind of what their setup looked like, and I thought it looked sweet. And if you've been following my website for a while, then you might recall back in the early days when I had a page that was, I don't know, it was like an upgrade list of things I wanted to do to the car. And the exhaust was absolutely last because it just was not that important to me, and I wasn't confident that it would give me anything, and I referred to it as purely eye candy. And that was a beautiful exhaust This is even better, I think. And I don't know, with the car on the ground, that's kind of tucked up there. I don't even know how noticeable it'll be. So people would have to kind of dip down a little bit to even see all of this, but it's eye candy. I'll admit it. Necessary? Maybe not, but it's eye candy. But when you replace the entire system, so for me to do what I'm doing today, I've removed one thing and put on another thing. This is for sound reduction and eye candy. But to replace the entire system, it does yield an effect, especially if you go from a stock downpipe to the whole thing. Then you're really going to feel a difference. So, yeah.
So while I haven't personally dyno tested before and after, the consensus is a catback at stage 2 IS38 levels is generally a 25 to 30 horsepower gain from just the catback alone. So the higher up you go, say a 500 horsepower car, you might see 35 to 40 horsepower increase because it's more restricted to begin with the higher volume.
This clearance is pretty good too. Get your hand up onto that one.
Yep. Yeah, I was a little bit concerned about this was built on a weld fixture on the table, not on the car, so this is the first time part has met machine.
Yeah, can almost slide my knuckle past and everything. So it's a lot of clearance. That's good. All right, well, let's go for a drive.
See how it sounds.
That's way better than before. You can hear a little bit of a drone there, and I don't know what that sounds like. Let's try it again. Let's go. All right, here's off-throttle drone. It's like 77 dB. That's 82. That's a little loud right there. It's a 77 dB off-throttle drone. It's I don't remember that being there with the other one or not. I didn't measure it before, but we'll go back and listen to it to see if we can actually hear it. Now, I didn't think to record this before, maybe because with the other system I didn't notice it, but off throttle, we mentioned an off throttle drone, just like a passive mention earlier, but we didn't hear it, I don't think, but I heard it this time. And so that is a little more, I think. When my foot's to the floor, it's not more. I guess it's that middle stuff.
Yeah. The rear seat delete makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
So we're kind of shooting two different clips here.
Could you hear that back there? That's something that the other exhaust didn't have. This right here, right at 3,000, say 2,800 RPM. Here's off throttle.
Yeah.
I don't think the other one was doing this. Now that there doesn't sound bad.
Yeah, it's sitting at 68.
Now last time I turned around there, but I don't want interference there.
fourth gear,
Yeah.
40 through 60 uphill.
So I don't know if you remember what the other readings were, but to my ear that was louder.
Yeah. Which is to be expected.
See, now that sounds better.
Yeah. Alright, so I'm here with StealthGTI. This is the dual muffler Stealth turbo back exhaust. Later in this video I'll show you a quick clip of the single suitcase muffler version. Here you go. That peaked at 92.
Okay.
That one peaked at 85.6. So I think on throttle, it's probably comparable. I don't know. We'll have to review the results.
Yeah.
Almost kind of need to go through the footage and take notes and chart it.
So you said it peaked at 91? Peaked at 91 and then leveled where?
80 even, I want to say.
Yeah, see, so here's the wide open throttle before. So wide open before, and this is on the freeway, it would peak at 97, and then as it's, so we just, this initial punch, it would just punch up to 97, and then it would be 91.
So it did make a
Yeah.
10 decibel difference.
Yeah, on acceleration it is better.
And then the suitcase is maybe another 5 even quieter than that.
Maybe, yeah.
So kind of splitting hairs between the two.
Yes.
So yeah, we'll have to go back and basically take notes for ourselves on what the readings were.
Yeah. And then of course I still got to do the freeway test too.
Yeah.
All right, so that was the Stealth Dual, and in my testing, we weren't sure if, you know, there is a drone in there. We weren't sure how bad of a drone that is. But now that I have all the numbers here, and I'll throw them up for you here in just a second, if I were to compare the less aggressive catback exhaust to the Stealth Dual, you can see that the Stealth Dual is quieter everywhere, but it's still peaky. Now the drone from the Stealth Dual, I don't know if it's as bad or the same as with the stock suitcase muffler. Maybe it's a little louder, I don't know, but it is not as bad as the less aggressive catback. So while I do make note about the drone, everything is brought down to a lower level. So a pretty good difference on the highway between the less aggressive catback and the Stealth Dual. So the Stealth Dual achieves that goal, but there is still a peaky drone. And if you don't drive in there, it's not a big deal. The car is not very loud, a wide open throttle, and it's not loud at all. Cruising on the highway is just, if you're a lazy driver like me, I am a lazy driver, I will admit that. I don't shift as often as I should, and so I do wind up slowly driving through that 2,800 to 3,500 RPM range, and that is putting the car right in the annoying zone for me. And so if I stay out of there, everything is fine. So let's go on, and I will share with you the Stealth Suitcase. I was impressed with this. Let me introduce Jake. Here we go. All right, so tell me about this exhaust option.
All right, so this will be the quietest of the Baun Performance lineup. Working your way from the valve turbo back exhaust, which we're not going to feature in this video, which would be both the loudest and the less aggressive with the valve closed. The aggressive, the less aggressive, which we showed at the beginning of this video, and then this being the far end of the spectrum on the quiet side of things, with the vibrant resonator up front, Orla muffler in the middle, and then this very large vibrant muffler in the rear.
So this is a muffler, not a resonator.
Correct.
Okay.
So the case length of this is 24 inches, where the bore lead that makes this previously the less aggressive system is 16 inches, I believe, so it's substantially larger.
So
Plus,
does his system have both this and that?
correct.
Okay, so this is the way you would make it and sell it.
Yeah, so this would be considered the Stealth Suitcase option, whereas the exhaust we had previous to this clip is the Stealth Dual option.
Okay.
Which technically they are resonators, but I'm calling them mufflers just because of their purpose in the exhaust. Really, by design, they're not inherently different, but the point of a resonator being to cancel drone and the muffler to tweak volume.
How did this come to be? Did it come before or after the idea to do mine?
Well, originally I had thought to use this on the Golf R whenever that development comes to be, because it's got a 3.5 inch inlet and 3 inch outlet, and my plan for the R is most likely to do 3.5 inch all the way out.
Okay.
So with
this would be unvalved?
For that option it would be.
Yeah, okay.
And I had heard that this had successfully been used to be a quiet option, and I would just assume that it would be because it's large.
Yeah.
So yeah, I always kind of had in the back burner as an option, and somebody asked when I posted the pictures of yours if there was a possibility to do one step even quieter than that, because people were being critical of yours, saying, well, how much difference is that really going to make? And I said, honestly, not much. But he's not looking for a lot. He's looking for just that last little critique to make it perfect for his taste. So we're dialing that in, and also because you want the aesthetics of the dual muffler.
Yeah.
I said it for somebody who's not as focused on the aesthetics and wants just the absolute quietest, this would be my go-to. And Dave was like, yeah, sign me up. Sounds good.
Okay. All right, well, let's take it for a drive.
All right. Yeah, maybe he'll watch the video and like yours better and vice versa. The price point's the same on both of them because yours is more labor intensive to build, and this is more expensive material wise.
Okay. Sounds good.
Definitely quiet.
I can't get over how quiet that is. That was way quieter. Some people might not like that, but I kind of do. The difference is kind of amazing.
Yeah?
Yeah. All right, welcome Jake to the drive. Just me doing this, I could tell. I mean,
Yeah.
come on. That's just crazy quiet. At speed limit or thrusting up, or what do you want to do?
Whatever we do, just want to be consistent with it.
Yeah, let me just set cruise for 46 and see what it looks like. So 68?
Yeah.
And no drone at all.
Yeah, super quiet.
I'm trying to remember if I would have droned up that hill. I think I would have. There we go. Here, I'll let you hold that. I'll do it again on this one here. Same thing, so 50. Rolling in now.
78.9 is where it peaked.
Now that drone there, I recognize that sound. That drone was 81 when I tested it this morning.
Okay.
So it's right here where you want
Yep.
me to do it in 6, and from what, 50 to 60 again?
Yeah, just go ahead and roll into it. Yeah, we're in the mid 70s, 79. Yeah, peaked at 79.
With the other exhaust setup, it's a difference between my car and my wife's car too. I don't know that her car is quieter on the highway. Tire noise. In her car, I hear tire noise, and her tires are kind of noisy. In this car today, I hear tires more than, because yesterday all I could hear was the engine. And whether it was droning or just being an engine, that's what I heard all day. Where today I hear more tires, more road. I don't see anybody.
Peaked at 81.
Yeah, I think I just about hit a rev limiter there. It's so quiet that it's easy to forget that I'm almost at the top at the red line. All right, so definitely a very impressive setup there. That one, yeah, I think I'm going to have that exhaust here before too long. I really liked it. I mentioned earlier that I went through my Boy Racer soundtrack setup and have decided to just kind of come back full circle. To me, there is something appealing about a quiet car that still just goes like a scalded cat. I like the idea of having a fast car that doesn't bring a lot of attention to itself, and this car certainly qualifies for that. Now, after all of that testing, we took Jake's car out for a drive. That drive, not apples to apples. His car has single mass flywheel, engine mounts. I think they're stage 2, he said. And my GoPro crapped out on me. It overheats too much. Anyway, I'm going to finish this up on the phone. We took Jake's car out for a drive just to share the aggressive Catback soundtrack. Now, this is not an apples to apples comparison. Jake's car, it has engine and transmission mounts. I think they're stage 2. He's got a single mass flywheel, and he's got a suspension upgrade. We don't mention it in the video, but he does have a suspension upgrade, and that might have firmer suspension mounts. The car was noisier throughout. So again, not apples to apples. We thought we were going to capture the fact that his car, because he has a rear seat in, that it might actually be quieter, but it wasn't. Yeah, his car is definitely noisier, but we shared it just for fun. And so let me share the ride along with you, and then I'll comment about everything after that. All right, we're going to do a little testing in Jake's car. This is louder. Just that right there is 89.
So this is 4th gear, 50 through 70 miles per hour.
88 before you stopped it.
6th gear, 60 miles per hour through 70.
It touched 90, so it was mostly 88 and then 90.
And we did 5th gear, 50 through 60 or 70.
'84.
So having the seat up makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
In how much sound's actually making it up into the cabin.
All right, car's warmed up. We're going to do some runs in Jake's car now. Sound runs. Did you say just regular acceleration?
Yeah, just kind of apples to apples.
All right, so I'm saying 85 to 87 dB. So you got 6 gear at 45. It's 82. So when I compare the numbers, and we're going to do another blast here in a second, I think the sound is different, but the peak numbers, I can't remember if they're better or the same, but Jake's rear seat is up, and we had discussed how much sound that seat holds back.
Save a good pull for.
Yeah, I mean, just those little punches were 91 and 92 dB, which is pretty consistent to where it is once you've. What we're seeing is when he first punches it, it spikes at 95 and then it backs off to about 91. And so since those were little stabs, and that's almost to be expected. All right, here we go. 93, and then we backed off a little bit. The rumble strip was a little unfair.
Yeah, cold tires, cold road, had a little more walking around than I was planning for.
Well, your tires are probably warmed up well enough.
So do you want to grab a exterior shot drive-by?
Sure.
Comparison?
I don't think mine's that loud. Now, there were some things that we did not test in Jake's car. We did not test it at 55 miles per hour. There was a lot of steady state testing that we didn't do because we just weren't in that mindset. We weren't thinking about it. The drone, I'm going to say there's no drone because his car is just louder throughout the entire rev band. So there are no peaky points in his exhaust. It is just louder everywhere. So there is no drone. That could be good or bad. Now, everybody has different tastes of what they like in an exhaust system. And so I will say that Jake likes it loud. Some of you like it loud. Some of you will like it less loud. Some people really like it quiet. And so there's all kinds to make our world go around. I can't tell you how many times I've heard a video where somebody commented about, well, why did you upgrade your exhaust if you didn't want it loud? Well, I want the power, that's why. And so then once I get more power, then I have to find my adjustment between how loud versus how much power. And I went down the path of a little bit more sound. Now I want a little less. So I'm on the Stealth Dual right now, and I will have the Stealth Suitcase, I think, at some point in the future. I really like that. And that Stealth Suitcase, I think, will probably be pretty awesome when I'm towing a trailer in the mountains, because I still do tow my car. Shame on me. That's just the way that goes. Now, let me share this table with you real quick. I think I've been sharing slivers of it as we go along, but now here is the whole thing. And so over here to the left, you can see my wife's stock Jetta, super, super quiet. Next after that, as far as noise goes, I think it might be the Stealth Suitcase's next quietest. I mean, that thing is wonderfully quiet. It opens up just a little bit at wide open throttle, so it does make a little bit of that nice sporty exhaust tone, but then it is completely tame almost at every other point. Next, as far as noise goes, would be the Stealth Dual. The Stealth Dual does have, like I said, that peaky resonance in there, that drone, as I refer to it, in the drone zone between 2800 and 3500 RPM, but it is still not as loud as the less aggressive catback exhaust. The less aggressive catback exhaust is louder across the board, I'm pretty sure, and then after that you've got the aggressive catback exhaust on Jake's car. Not an apples to apples comparison because he has other noise making additions in his car, but still safe to say that that exhaust is louder than everything. It's worth noting a few disclaimers along the bottom here. For example, in my wife's car, there was too much traffic for me to take the measurements at 85 miles per hour. And quite frankly, it just takes too long to get her car up to that speed. So I just did the measurement at 80, and really, it just wasn't getting any louder. From 70 to 75, 80, it just stayed pegged right at 70 decibels. And so I figured, why bother going to 85? So that's minor disclaimer on her car. Next, you'll see that some of these measurements have two values, and what those are, this is noted by the pound sign or hashtag for you younger folks. What that represents is a peak, because when you first say downshift and floor it, there'll be this burst of sound that comes out that's just a little bit louder than what the sustained volume is, and so that's what that volume represents, is this little punch, and then it backs off. Next, the red columns, those are all my GTI. My GTI does not have a rear seat, and so it's amazing how much sound that rear seat holds back. And so it's a handicap, if you will. It's not an apples to apples comparison. And so if I had a rear seat, or if, say, Jake's car did not have a rear seat, the numbers would be adjusted a little bit. And so, for example, my less aggressive and his aggressive notes, they look the same on the sprint acceleration, but they're kind of not. If I had the same seat holding back sound as his would, mine would be a little bit softer than his. So it's just a small thing to note there. Finally, this was a small adjustment, and that would be that the green readings were measured on the same day and on the same road. So in other words, they were all down in Jake's area on his roads, and maybe they have a slightly different tone to them. I'm not quite sure. I could tell the difference in the recordings, and so I just figured I would note it and maybe make the readings a little bit more scientific. But I mean, come on, this is a consumer grade sound pressure level meter, so how scientific am I really going to get on this? But I figured I'd bring it up anyway. Yeah, so all the test drives are done now, and we'll go home. We have all these numbers in our head of what we think happened, and what we think happened is that what are we going to call this? The dual stealth? What are your names?
Dual stealth for what you've got,
okay.
And then the stealth suitcase.
Stealth suitcase. The stealth suitcase, we're very certain, is the quietest of them all. It's quieter on acceleration. There's no drone in cruising, no drone off throttle. And what else would you say?
I wish we had a third car here with the OEM fitment mid pipe and a factory catback from there on out, but I would say that it's got to be splitting hairs,
yeah,
volume wise, which was the intention.
This
and the
one,
goal.
This one here, dual stealth. Is that what you called it?
Well, stealth dual, I guess.
Stealth dual.
That's the way I've been typing it.
There is still drone off throttle with it. It might be a little less. So I have gotten something out of putting the resonators back there. Full wide open throttle acceleration, I think, is better. And so I will know that and then I still need to do the test on the freeway at 70 miles an hour. So I'm curious to see how that sounds. Those are kind of the big tests, because really off throttle stuff, how often do you really do that? I mean, so yeah. I really like that suitcase though. If I had known all of this beforehand, I might have chosen it instead. So Dave, I hope you're happy with that. It's a nice quiet option, and the performance is certainly there. I didn't feel a performance difference from any of it, so it's all, if there is one, it is super small.
Performance difference amongst all the 3-inch turbo back options.
Yeah, so technically over the past 12 hours I've tested the standard less aggressive catback exhaust, then the less aggressive stealth dual option, and then the less aggressive stealth suitcase.
Right.
Did I say all of those right? And so power-wise, I can't really feel anything. So it's just the sound. The sound is different.
Yeah, got something for everybody, preference and aesthetics wise.
Well, and then we also, in your car, kind of tested. It's not apples to apples because his car is different than mine. My car has no back seat. His car has a back seat, but his car also has motor mount, single mass flywheel, and other noisy things. And so they might be close to the same. I'll know for sure once I sit down and look at everything, because we think we've remembered what we've measured, but it's not until we listen to the recordings and see what numbers actually came out of our mouths that I'll be certain. So they're close. His is definitely louder outside the car and under many circumstances. But again, he's got a back seat, and I don't know. I'm just rambling at this point. Wow, I don't know how long this video has turned out to be, but if you are still here, I appreciate you watching this whole thing. Feel free to post questions if you have them. I always appreciate questions, and I always answer. As always, I appreciate you being here, and I will see you next time. Take care.